Hello, everybody. Welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. I am your host, Matt Connarton. We're here for the television edition. Mr. John Hopwood is with me also. I didn't join John on his show today, Ward 13 with John Hopwood, because it was another baseball show. John, I don't know if you've ever heard this joke, but I know so little about baseball, I don't even know how many quarters are in a game. I know it's your favorite joke. Anyway, I'm just kidding. A little bit inside. But we have an announcement. I'm very excited. John, you must be particularly excited because you just found out 5 minutes ago. I found out about 10 minutes ago. But I knew last week that something was in the works. But I hadn't been told yet officially. But today I asked, and John Eric O'Neill filled me in. Beginning May 31st, that week, you will be on 6 p.m. on Tuesday nights. So a new time and a new night. And then I will be immediately after you, as we do here, at 7 p.m. Tuesday nights. Times Eastern, for those of you who watch online.
Is there anybody on at 8?
That's a good question. I don't know. No. John Eric O'Neill says no.
Oh, okay.
So this is really cool because I think, we'll be able to get more guests, more, obviously people are more available at that time of the day, probably more viewers. I think we'll definitely get more callers. I'm really excited. So
I've still got to wrap my mind around it.
Yeah, that's true. Because even though we just kind of found out officially at about the same time, I had a week of knowing that this was maybe going to happen. When Jason mentioned it to me last week kind of casually, and he said, I'll get back to you when I know for sure, and I hadn't heard back from him yet, but
I hate
he's
politics
a busy man.
now.
You do?
Yeah, I had a revelation last week.
Yeah?
To be positive.
Yes.
To be positive. So baseball, cultural things, it's not the blue skies politicians sell you, but the actual blue sky overhead. And now all of a sudden, I guess we're being moved towards a time where we're supposed to yak about things that are going on, like tax caps and expletive deleted.
Right.
Hey, maybe I can get somebody on from the baseball team, or who knows.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
I was just telling Matt, I don't follow politics anymore.
Politics still follows you, John.
Do you think I'm telling you the truth?
No. Come on.
I'm a politician.
That's right.
What is it? What is it the Cretans said? All Cretans are liars. I'm from Crete.
Okay. Let's see. So that's not next week, but the week after, correct? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so in 2 weeks. So next week we'll be on Wednesday as usual, and the week after is the big move.
Okay.
So I've prayed for this, which is odd because I'm essentially agnostic.
I thought you were an atheist.
I consider myself agnostic. I keep an open mind. I've seen some stuff I can't fully explain, but so that's exciting. Also, some of you may have seen already, we've had a redesign of IPM Nation, the layout on the website, much more mobile friendly now than it was. It was already mobile friendly, but there's that. That's even cooler now. It looks great on any device now. And there's going to be a new episode of Angry Drunk Tales coming.
What is Angry Drunk Tales?
Well, Jen and I used to live with this gentleman who was angry and drunk. He was our roommate. We got stuck with him rather by accident. It wasn't, it was another roommate had invited us to go and live there, and then that guy left. So then we were stuck with the angry drunk guy. But the angry drunk guy was really, really nice. He was almost too nice for a while.
Overcompensating for being an angry drunk?
I think so, because once he flipped, it didn't stop. So we have we have like 40 episodes or 45 episodes of a podcast. After we escaped there, we actually created a podcast called Angry Drunk Tales.
Is this about the angry drunk?
Yeah.
It's not the angry drunk himself doing the show.
No. It's about him because he writes these long, rambling, drunken emails. He was writing them to us while we were living there still.
I could possibly take over that gig.
Yeah.
To you and Gary.
That's right. So, write some more stuff. But yeah, he and even after we moved out, he continued to write these. He repeats himself a lot. It's very, very strange, but very entertaining to read. And, you know, and he threatens us and all this kind of stuff. And Oh yeah, crazy stuff. So we actually made an entire show called Angry Drunk Tales, and they're up on YouTube.
I didn't know that's what it was about. I thought it was just an angry drunk.
No, no. Well, he is an angry drunk. Yeah, he would suck down like a. He's actually threatened to try to get me off of here, which is really funny.
How is he going to do that?
I don't know, but that was one of his things. He wrote in one of his emails, "I'm going to make it my personal project to get you thrown off the air." I think he was under the impression that Angry Drunk Tales was actually recorded here, which it's not, because it's strictly audio. But I don't know.
You never use his name.
No, we don't use his name. But if you're watching EG, you know who you are. I'm still here. But
I just realized what's upsetting me about the 6 p.m. time slot.
what's that?
Well, it's analogous to Rich Girard on Thursday.
Oh.
It's like a case of doubling.
Ah.
Rich being like a doppelganger.
Yes.
So I guess I'm slightly disturbed about that. It's either that or the
great.
Diet Moxie.
Yeah.
Can we do a product placement for Diet Moxie? Can we get the sponsors
It's gross,
these
but
days?
sure. Yeah, I don't know how you. I mean,
Some reason the diet is more palatable.
you are probably.
Doesn't go flat. Well,
Really?
it does eventually.
Makes me wonder what's in it.
Takes a long time.
You are probably the youngest person I've ever even seen drinking Moxie.
That might be true.
You got a lot of Moxie, John Hopwood. See what I did there? But
There was actually a famous poet that drank this stuff.
Yeah.
I can't remember who he was. Either that or the guy E.B. White who wrote Charlotte's Web. Probably E.B. Webb, because Moxie's like from Maine.
Oh
isn't it?
yeah. I was gonna say they're from this part of the country. Yeah.
Well, are you excited about your new evening time slot?
I am.
I know you already said that.
I am. I'm very excited.
But your Wednesdays were always so full.
Yeah. Well, they still will be in a sense, because when I'm not, I'm always working. That's all I do is work. So when I'm not here, I'm working. You know, I'm working on the site. I'm working on all kinds of stuff. So it doesn't matter. I'm super uber busy no matter what. I do currently tape a radio show on Tuesday nights, but it's not live, so I can move the time. So it doesn't matter. So now I'll get to be here 2 days a week instead of just one,
You don't have to move, by the way.
which
What?
is good.
John, you don't have to move, by the way.
Oh, John Eric O'Neill says you don't have to move.
Good God! I'll be throwing a celebration at the end of the show. I think it's the Moxies drugged me.
Yeah, because you've always wanted to move time slots anyway, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Actually, when were you on before? Because you weren't always on at 1 o'clock on Wednesday.
I used to have a half-hour show.
Oh, right. Okay. And then you moved to Wednesday. But I think at first you were on at noon, weren't you?
Yes.
And then
Well,
we
then
were
we
like,
put our shows together.
Yeah, then we
Because
were-
we couldn't get a guest.
right.
It would have taken divine intervention to get anybody to come.
Yeah. So we're gonna be able to get all kinds of guests now, I bet.
I hope so.
Yeah, I would think so.
I don't know. We'll see.
Who's your dream guest? Who have you?
Besides from Julie Christie.
Well, look, how old is she now? I mean,
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
All I have to do is take off my glasses.
there you go.
Julie.
I've always, you know who, actually, this is true. And I read an email from this gentleman once on the air, and a very angry email. I've always,
Another angry drunk.
oh yes. Well, I don't know if he's a drunk, but Steve Valancourt is someone I've always wanted to interview because he's so strange.
You know I almost punched him on live TV, don't you?
This
They had
sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't remember exactly the details.
I didn't realize at the time I had PTSD.
Yeah.
But he definitely had put me. I was sitting here, Steve was here, and Joe Lavasse is here, and Ed is over here.
Yeah.
And at one point I'm looking at Joe, and Joe's like,
Yeah.
and he had to close it down after half an hour. I have met many people in my life in different walks, you know, of my different walk. What do you call it when somebody's different professions?
Yeah.
Military, crooks. and they weren't even politicians, the crooks.
Yeah.
I'd never met a more obnoxious human being than Steve Valancourt. And I guess he irritated me because he was obviously lying.
Yeah.
They just had to shut it down. And then,
I remember hearing about this, but I didn't.
because Joe looked like, he's like, and
What happened? Did the show just end early? To keep
he
you
said
guys from...
half hour. No, they did a
okay.
a break.
Gotcha.
So I get up and leave, and then I'm getting up toward halfway towards the studio, and Steve Valancourt's still in the chair, and I said, I'm not leaving if he's going to stay here. So then he came around, and he went and he slumped in a chair in the
You went to go pout?
with the engineering side.
Yeah.
And then I went over, and he was sitting, and I was standing. And I said to him, I challenged him about some of the stuff he said, all these predictions, a prominent Democrat.
Yeah.
And it was just so full of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I looked over, and John Eric had the same look that Joe Lavas had. So I eventually left.
Yeah.
I guess he was ready to expletive delete his pants.
Wow.
He disappeared after that.
Yeah.
Well, he lost, and he's
Yeah.
gone to a bordello in Montreal or something.
I saw him the other day at Demula's.
Is he? Oh, is he back?
He
for a
must
new
be
run?
back, or I don't know. But yeah, I saw him. I saw him at the deli counter.
Which one?
The one downtown, right off of Elm.
We don't call them Demulas anymore. They're just Market
Just
Basket.
Market Basket.
Right.
Yeah, I went old school with it.
But oh wow.
Well, we tried to get him. This was back when a certain individual, a little
Hula
Mel.
hoop.
Yes, the one with the hula hoop. When she would try to book me guests, and she tried to get me Valancourt because he's so, like, I've never even actually had a conversation with the guy, but obviously doing Gary's show with him, I've heard a lot of Valancourt. I've just heard a lot of Valancourt stories, and plus there was that whole Sieg Heil thing that happened in the house when he got in trouble.
Well, I liked it when he did that.
That was
even a broken clock, right? Right, twice a day.
who did he say that? It was O'Brien. He said that to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I would have said something like that too.
Because the media twisted it to say that he said Heil Hitler, which is
they
absolutely
said-
not what he said.
And then the national media said, he was a Democrat, which was
did they?
he was once. But
He was,
no
yeah.
longer.
But
He's a creep.
yeah,
Very creepy.
nobody
person.
seems to like him. But what Gary always says about him is he's very, very smart, very intelligent guy who would probably be able to convince more people to come around to his side on certain issues if he just wasn't such a jerk.
Yeah.
But I actually have two. Even though I've never met the guy, I have two Steve
Sounds like
Valancourt
Rich
stories.
Girard, doesn't it?
Yeah, I have two Valancourt stories, actually. One of them is we tried to get him on the show. He had told Mel he would come on, but then...
You should have used a younger man.
Oh, my.
To woo him.
Oh, my.
Little Mel was the wrong gender.
Yes, that's true, from what I understand. But so he found out that Ross Terrio had been on the show, because Ross and I are friends. Ross has been on the show not lately, but he's been on the show several times, and of course on Gary's show. And they had that lawsuit where Ross sued Valancourt for defamation of character.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because Valancourt claimed that Ross was part of some sort of vote having something to do with Manchester that was very controversial.
Some voting fraud, something like that.
No, it was a specific vote that Valancourt was claiming. Valancourt was calling a mistake and claiming that Ross was a part of this vote that he voted for. I think it had to do, it's coming back to me now, it had to do with redistricting.
Oh, yeah, Valancourt was the person that gerrymandered everything so
Yeah.
ridiculously to give the Republicans an advantage.
Yeah, but he was...
Mr. Honesty himself.
But he was mad at Ross about how he voted and included him in this list of, I think, 8 snakes and weasels or whatever.
You mean that Ross might have wanted a little fairness and a little democracy?
Well, here's the thing. Ross didn't vote. Ross wasn't there when the vote took place. So he sued Valancourt for defamation of character, and they settled. But then Valancourt, I think that was why Valancourt gave up his show. But so Valancourt finds out that Ross and I were friends and that he had been on the show, and then he sends me this long email where it's hilarious. He's like, I will not go on any show that And when he talks about Ross, it's almost like he's talking about a supervillain. I won't go on any show that would have the vile,
Sterio's a villain.
the vile Ross Stereo is how he kept calling him. We would have him as a guest. So I was like, okay. So then I read the email on the air.
Maybe Ross has a secret life that he's, like Batman or something, going around at night, doing things like changing district lines or whatever. Who knows?
This is just funny the way the vile Ross Stereo.
He is one odd duck.
Yes.
I could say other things, but we don't want to get any libels.
And the other weird thing that happened with Valancourt was this was several years ago, but I was here for this was when the studio was still in the other room, for a Amsterdam Christmas special. They were doing one of their Christmas specials. I think that year was 2 hours. And Valancourt at that time was on. He hated Peter and Joel.
Oh yeah,
and he was.
And what's his name? The other guy. Ryan might not have been there at that point. But
no, Gorman was because he figures into the story. Yeah. Ryan Gorman, yeah. So that week, Valancourt's Christmas show was on right before, and I guess he used to do this thing every year where he would end the show showing a video of him reading from a children's book, which was really weird. But because that part of the show was recorded, he was only live for the first half, and then he'd take off. So we're all downstairs outside waiting to go up to do Amsterdam. We're just kind of hanging out outside. Some people
and
are
the
smoking
door's
cigarettes.
Locked at night.
And the door's locked, but there was a bucket propping the door open. Valancourt finishes the live part of his show. He's leaving the building. He sees us. He grabs the bucket and throws it out of the way and tries to lock the door so that we can't get in on his way to his car. And Gorman caught the door and he's like, yeah, nice try, D-bag. Except he didn't say D-bag. He said the actual word, which isn't a swear, and yet for some reason I don't think you're really allowed to say it on TV. But you know the word I mean. But that was my other Valancourt story.
Well, he was always locking them out and harassing them.
Yeah, I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah,
weird guy.
Yeah, but he's back, probably to run for office again.
You think he will?
To fulfill his destiny.
And it was definitely him, because nobody looks like Valancourt. You know what I mean?
Right. Once again, there's always that fight for the title of the biggest expletive deleted hole in New Hampshire. I'd put Ted Gatzis up there.
Right.
But,
yeah.
Steve definitely has him trumped.
Really? Yeah. Was that your only angry encounter with Valancourt?
It's the only time I've ever seen him.
Oh, no kidding, yeah.
He was an expletive deleted hole and a D-bag.
Yeah.
And it was something. He was really, really gross.
Yeah.
It looks like somebody that melted. Who was the thing that used to go around that movie? The movies with the midgets. Yeah, Precious. The Lord of the Dingalings.
Oh, yeah.
Was it the Golem?
Golem,
Precious.
Yeah.
It's like sitting next to the Golem. Jesus. Christ, I think he was going to try to grab my dingaling.
Really? Yeah. Well.
No, I'm just kidding about that. He was just... I don't want to get into it.
He's a character. But yeah, I used to say that was my dream guest. I always wanted to interview Valancourt just because he's so weird.
You wouldn't last.
Yeah.
You'd want to slap him.
Really?
Well, how much BS can you take from one human being?
Right.
Squirming, lying, and... I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it. In any other state, there's a guy that would, he'd never be in a state legislature.
Right.
He'd be, some guy that coming into a cafeteria. Well, they don't have cafeterias here. They, like New York in the old days and stuff, used to have these like cheap places to eat, like Horn and Hardit, and where you'd put a quarter in and get that, and there'd always be these like rancid, dirty old men coming in, dribbling saliva with shopping bags and bitching about socialism.
We have a
I think we have one of those people running for president.
Yeah, that's true. We also have a call. Maybe it's Mr. Valancourt. Hello, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's on the line?
It's Jen, but I have a Valancourt story.
Oh, good. All right, let's hear it.
You mentioned earlier about the incident where he pulled the Sig Heil thing in the House.
Yeah.
An important thing to know is that remember, we have 400 House members representing all of the people in our great state. And there were a number of members who were either descendants from people who were lost in the Holocaust, who died in the death camps,
Yeah,
or
I remember O'Brien saying that.
survived or served and actually were there to liberate camps. And I myself personally of Jewish descent who have family members that died in camps went up to him and I said, Steve, please, just apologize and let this go.
Yeah.
This is an appropriate way to use that word and invoke what you are invoking. It's in a sense disrespectful. Would you please just say sorry? The response I got was, don't you ever speak to me again. How dare you accuse me of being anti-Semitic?
Well, 'cause
and then off he stormed. And
he loved the
5
attention.
hours later, we're still dealing with Valancourt, who won't apologize, and won't leave, and won't do anything, but is still being a pain in the you-know-what.
Right.
So the great state of New Hampshire stood still while he threw a temper tantrum.
Well, actually, though, he did apologize, but it was very sort of half-hearted and sarcastic.
He had to be let back on
Yep,
the floor.
and it took about 5 hours to get there.
Yeah. Yeah,
It literally took about 5 hours to get to that point.
I remember seeing the video, and he's like, I also won't say Wiener Schnitzel and these other German words, and he just kind of tried to make a joke about it.
Out of it, even though a number of people approached him in a very honest and genuine manner and said, you know, for our sakes or for the sake of, you know, we know so-and-so liberated, you know, what have you, please just apologize.
Yeah.
That those kind of words should never be spoken inside the New Hampshire House of Representatives.
Yeah, but he just, he loves the attention. He was hoping it would be a
Oh, yeah.
national story.
You notice when
But I just wanted to add that because it's inside ball information if you were down on the floor and part of it all
Yeah.
that a lot of people don't know about, and I think it's important to know about because if he's thinking about running again, you ought to know that.
Oh, yeah, that's true. His legacy looms large. All right, thanks, Jen.
Hey, bye,
All right,
guys.
bye-bye.
yes, he can't understand about sensitivity, of being sensitive about the other people's feelings or something. He just has to say it.
Do you think he has Asperger's or autism or something, maybe?
I don't know.
That would explain a lot.
Yeah, but there's just some people that are expletive deleted holes.
He would get along very well, actually, with the guy
actually-
from Angry Drunk Tales.
If only we had his picture. I remember there's some queen from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. What was her name? Lady Elaine.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he looks a lot like her.
Yes.
But you notice when I won't say it in the automatic chambers, but you know when I do certain parodies on Ted Getz's, he's Mussolini.
Yes.
Hitler's a little too much. Now Stinky, Go with Goebbels, Dr. Goebbels.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
There's a distinction there. But Hitler, you know, there's always questions of kind and degree.
Yes.
That's going too far.
Yes.
But,
So have you really not been following politics?
Not really.
Yeah.
You know, it's inevitable that you're going to hear stuff.
Yeah.
I guess that Bernie's caterwauling over 5 delegates. Is it Nevada? Oh, well.
Yeah, the Nevada thing was strange.
Well, it's a caucus.
Yeah, the caucuses are strange by their nature.
Welcome to America, huh? They're private entities.
Yeah.
They're not in the Constitution. They could do anything they want.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court rarely, there's like a thing called, what's it called, political actions, that the Supreme Court was always very wary of doing anything in the political realm. So until 1961, they did nothing about gerrymandering. Until, what was it, Carvey, I used to know all those things.
Yeah.
1961, I guess in Illinois, they'd have rotten districts, you know, in the rural areas, with just several, you know, let's say a few thousand people, or probably more than a few thousand. And then a district in Chicago has hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And they each have it.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court in 61, the Warren Court, one man, one vote.
Yeah.
Carr versus, I used to know those exact titles.
Huh.
But just think, from 1789 to 1961, oh, you know, you want to gerrymander? There's 2 people here and 1 million here? What the hell?
Well-
That's political. We don't get involved.
Well, what was the Supreme Court ruling on that? Because obviously the
Look up-
gerrymandering still goes on, but
car. Oh yeah, there's been every year or two. There's another gerrymandering
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah.
And now the court, the Roberts Court and the Rehnquist Court, you gerrymander almost at will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things that was the main things about gerrymandering was for African Americans that you could gerrymander to ensure that African Americans have a district. Then the Republicans realized by putting all the African Americans in one district, it helps the Republicans because you put them in certain districts
Right.
and you get them out where they could be a tipping point in
Right.
another district.
Right.
But
Yeah.
there's one district, this was a 10-year ago case in North Carolina, that was so weirdly gerrymandered. Because the RNC has software to create these, like all-black districts.
Oh, I believe
so
it, yeah.
to help the Republicans.
Yeah.
And one of the people fighting it, for like the Democrats said, if you took a car with both doors open and drove down the highway, you'd kill everybody in the district.
Right.
Because it was just this thing. But they said, well,
Wow.
that was the intent of Congress.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court can do whatever it wants.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really.
Have you been following at all the Merrick Garland situation? The Republicans don't even want to.
The who?
Merrick Garland, Obama's nominee to the Supreme Court, who.
Doesn't that just tell you I just said who?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not going anywhere. The Republicans are refusing to give him a hearing or anything. They're saying that.
Including our own Kelly Ayotte. Mm-hmm. The 2012 election, I guess, they get to negate it.
Yeah.
Welcome to America. We have an undemocratic. We have probably outside of we have the most undemocratic country I would think in the OECD.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the name on except for Australia? Australia has a Senate. I can't think of any other country that has an upper house that has any power, except Australia. But that's picked with proportional representation. You go and vote, and the seats are allotted. Although they do have states in Australia, so it's a formula.
I didn't realize that.
And a small party in Australia, there's a Democrat. There used to be a Democratic Party in Australia, and the head of it was this really good-looking woman. She used to be criticized for going around in a bikini and stuff. And in those days, you could email people, and they'd email back. God knows why.
Right.
Natasha, what was her last name? But
I seem to remember
that later got wiped out the party for different reasons. But
Yeah.
they held the balance of power in the Australia Senate. They were kind of a centrist, little towards left party.
Yeah.
But that's the only country. But Australia has, outside of England and Canada too, the UK has a first past the post system.
What's that mean?
We are a first past the post. Whoever gets the most votes wins.
Yeah.
And so if you're the Tories, the Conservatives, and there's 3 candidates, you get 35% of the vote. You win the seat.
Oh, okay.
You win the seat.
So
the same as in here. You don't have to have a majority to win a seat in the United States.
Yeah.
But in most countries of Europe, you have a proportional representation. It's the people vote, and seats are allocated based on the vote.
Okay.
And they have lists, who's going to get a seat. You're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
There's all sorts of formulas for proportional representation.
Yeah.
So that the parliament actually is closer to the will of the people. So I don't think Margaret Thatcher Margaret Thatcher doesn't get voted for. The prime minister doesn't get voted for. The party does. But in England, you get 40% of the vote. You can control the country, like Thatcher did, from 79 to, 1997, 18 years.
She had a hell of a
without
run.
ever having a majority. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Then they ousted her, and Major
Yep.
won one election.
John Major, yeah.
So, and Canada's like that too. In Canada, for 6 years, they had a minority government because Canada has the Quebec and that situation.
Yeah, that gets
But
complex.
you can determine the how was it? It takes 3 hours for a Canadian election, federal election. It's all paper ballots, and they know in 3 hours. There's
No kidding.
There's no this, that, or the other thing. You don't have stuff going on like in Miami or anything.
Yeah.
And it's all over. But they don't have proportional representation. So a minority party can win a majority.
Okay.
But, in Europe, you usually have, like, coalitions.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So that's more democratic. The United States, you think a Senate where one person can have a senatorial hold. All the senator has to do, nope,
Right.
it's not going to go through.
Right. Right.
Most legislation goes to the Senate. It's universal assent or consent, universal consent. So a senator is one of the most powerful people in the world, a U.S. senator.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you see this? They just confirmed unanimously. This impressed me. I'm blanking on his name now. The guy, the new Secretary of the Army.
Yeah, why don't, yeah. But you think because he's gay, he would have had...
Yeah.
Right.
I would have expected that some Republicans would be going. Well, there was one who was holding out for a while.
For a
and
while,
they talked him into it. But that, I was talking about this last night on my radio show. I think that's it's easy to be cynical and say, because on the one, I get very cynical sometimes. I look at things like bigotry and transphobia and homophobia and all this, and it's like, oh my God, it's 2016 and we're still not past all this. But then it's like, but there is good news too, and I think that's clearly there's a time when that would not have happened.
A universal, the consent. That way, everybody, you don't have to really fess up to what you did.
Yeah.
So that was one way for them. Even was Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, has he gone back to the Senate?
Probably. I would think. I mean, he's got nothing
Or
else
has he
to
gone
do.
back to Middle Earth? No, he came from the Archie comics, right? Jughead.
Have you seen this meme online about how he looks like the Zodiac killer?
Nobody knows who the Zodiac... No, he doesn't look like the Zodiac killer.
There's a meme that suggests that he's secretly the Zodiac killer. Did you see the video of him accidentally, when he gave his speech, dropping out, and he...
Oh, yeah.
Heidi is next to him, his wife Heidi. If you haven't seen this, you got to find it online. It's
Goldman
hilarious.
Sachs.
He's got Heidi next to him and his dad behind him, and he turns. He's just given his speech, dropping out of the race, and he's turning around to hug his dad. And as he does so, he accidentally punches and elbows Heidi right in the face.
That's Christian love, man. He's showing her she's the breadwinner of the family. She's a Goldman Sachs executive.
Now, see, I didn't. Is she still? Is she still
Oh, yeah.
working for them? I didn't
Isn't
realize
it
that.
nice to have one investment bank that controls both parties?
Yes. Well,
That's our democracy. You don't have to
Absolutely.
screw around. They get what
Absolutely.
they want. You don't have to go assassinating anybody, having
Right.
coups or this or that. You just know who to pay off.
that's why nobody goes to jail. They can wreck our economy, and nobody goes to jail for it.
Wow.
They had Obama bought and paid for before
Oh, yeah.
before
yeah.
he was even nominated. And
He wouldn't have been president if he wasn't bought and paid for.
yeah.
That's called vetting. That's what our system's based on. The founding fathers had nothing to do with democracy. I
Yeah.
guess if you think that Greece in 500 BC is a democracy, most people can't vote. Women can't vote.
Yeah.
The Soviet Union was a democracy too. They got the vote and they wanted to vote. They gave out the vodka ration and you voted in your apartment, your drab Stalin-esque concrete apartment
Yeah.
block. You went down the basement, got your vodka, and could vote, and you had to vote.
Yeah.
That's how they got them to vote.
Remember those elections they used to have in Iraq, where Saddam Hussein, of course, would win 100% of the vote, and then you see these pictures and this video of these people celebrating in the streets because they're so excited that Saddam won re-election.
They're giving them boo. They're
So
probably out.
bizarre.
Well, he was not a religious person, so they
No.
probably did break out some type of alcoholic beverage. or
Yeah, he was a
something.
secular ruler, at least on paper.
It seemed to work very much better, didn't it?
It sure did.
Yeah, there's something about the difference between these, like the Baathists, who aren't Marxists. They were like from Nader, who was the general who took over Egypt and kicked the British out. And they're more pragmatic. It's
Yeah.
like the PLO. They were Marxists.
Yeah.
It turns out they were easier to deal with than the fanatics,
Yeah.
I guess, everything. Yeah. What were we talking about? Oh, our lovely democracy.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, the Senate. So it's wonderful. And the Electoral College. It just gives me chills thinking about it.
What's funny about this?
An electoral. Talk about
Chills.
2016. We have an electoral college. And then you get these idiots like the New York Times. Oh, I'm glad we have an electoral college so Donald Trump can't win. Well, maybe if you had a parliamentary system, Donald Trump wouldn't win.
Right.
Be anywhere near it.
How do you feel about the electoral college system? I mean, it's never going to happen. But
Uh-oh,
if you
I almost S-bombed.
but if you could make it go away, would you? Because I think
Of
it should go
course.
away. I think it should be done by popular vote.
I think we should have a parliamentary system.
Yeah. So you would change the whole thing.
Yeah, it's 2016. It's not 1789.
Right.
It's not, we had Andrew Jackson. I guess they're kicking off the $20
Yes,
bill.
he's out of there.
Because we can't get rid of Alexander Hamilton, can we?
Right.
The plutocrat.
Yep, it's Jackson out in Tubman.
Well, I always, part of the Tubman, you figure that people in Congress, probably around my age or a little older, mid-50s or older. Now, the standard price for a street prostitute in the 70s was $20. So I always figured they took her from the 10 to the 20, the racists and the bigots, because they do control the Senate, the Republican Party. Oh, here's a little inside joke, huh? We'll put her on a 20, a double sawbuck, a black woman and all that. And
Yeah.
it's just like, am I the only one that sees this?
That's interesting.
Why? Oh, but well, what's his name? Andrew Jackson was a racist. We owned slaves. Well, who's on the $1 bill?
Right. They all.
Well, Lincoln's not. I'm surprised the Republicans haven't have him bleached off of the $5 bill.
Well,
They could put
Lincoln was a Republican, so they can't.
Wow.
It's one of their own.
Andrew Jackson was a Democrat. I don't know if you'd think Abraham Lincoln is not one of the Dixiecrats.
No.
I guess George Wallace was a Democrat, so they couldn't put him on. Well, they should have put Dutch on. Dutch Reagan.
I'm surprised actually that there's never been a push for that, or maybe there has been and I just missed it. But
They were going to put him on the dime,
they were.
but Nancy
Okay.
Reagan vetoed it because Dutch's hero was Franklin Roosevelt.
Oh, okay.
Franklin Roosevelt still hated to this day by Republicans. Every expletive deleted hole that's been president, like Gerald Ford's got like an aircraft carrier named after him.
Right.
Franklin Roosevelt, there's an SS Roosevelt, which is this, tiny little ship. And it's
Yeah.
named after both him and Eleanor.
Oh, okay.
You can't get a big ship named after Roosevelt, even though he was the Assistant Secretary of Navy in World War I. He's still that despised by Republicans.
But he was a big hero to Reagan. I didn't know that.
Reagan was was Democrat.
He was
a
that's true, when he
liberal
was
Democrat.
Governor. Yeah, he liberalized abortion in California.
Well, that's
Do you think his conservatism was completely fake?
No, I think that he was basically a mindless boob, an actor.
Yeah.
And what his good friend Melvin Douglas, who was a liberal Democrat and a friend of FDR, who actually was gray-listed, not blacklisted. The blacklist wasn't just against the Communist Party members. Like everybody in the Hollywood 10 was actual member under party discipline, which meant under Moscow. And they didn't even hide the fact.
Yeah.
And but people got gray-listed Douglas, Melvin Douglas, would later win 2 Oscars, Best Supporting Actor. He was a leading man in the 30s. Most famous till he was gray-listed, Garbo, Ninotchka.
Yeah.
And another great, Edward G. Robinson was a friend of FDR. He was gray-listed. They couldn't get work. They were only liberal Democrats, New Dealers. But that's what the Red Scare is actually going after.
Okay.
Not only communists. Mostly they're going after New Dealers, progressives, and it was also about the unions, cracking down on unions.
Okay.
Replacing militant unions with sweetheart unions.
Yeah.
But you have Dutch Reagan, who was an FBI informant in the 40s, squealing on communists, but that's hardly a big deal at that time.
Yeah.
But Melvin Douglas always said, and Melvin Douglas' wife, Helen Gahan, was that her name? Gallahan or something? She was a movie actress in the early 30s. She was the Pink Lady. She was a congresswoman that Richard Nixon ran against for Senate in 1950.
Okay.
He said she was pink right down to her underwear.
Yeah.
Because, you're red, but then there's the fellow travelers. You're pink.
Ah.
Pinko. Archie Bunker, well,
Is that see?
Pinkos.
Oh, so that's
you're not
where
a communist.
So
but
that's
you're
where that
pink.
term comes from, pinko.
Right. You're light red.
I never. It's funny, and I'm almost embarrassed that I never put that together. But I never knew that that's where that came from.
So people like Melvin Douglas couldn't get work in the 50s.
Yeah.
Edward G. Robinson couldn't get work. He went on stage. He was a very good stage actor, too.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was the first role he got, like in 1956, was 10 Commandments, Cecil B. DeMille, who was a red baiter extraordinaire.
Yeah.
And if Cecil B. DeMille would give you a job, that's the end of you being gray-listed.
Yeah.
But Henry Fonda was a Republican, but a liberal.
Yeah.
He was gray-listed. He can only act on he just disappears from movies.
Huh.
So here's Dutch Reagan, whose career is going into the toilet.
So he
And
was just a B-movie actor anyway. I mean,
he was a...
Doesn't the mythology of Reagan kind of try to kind of elevate him as being a bigger Hollywood star than he actually was?
He was in A-list movies in the 40s, but as a second lead.
Okay.
He was never a lead.
Okay.
And in leads, A movie, that's, the top.
Yeah,
B
yeah.
movies were smaller budgets, done much more quickly. He was a lead in those type of movies. But his career essentially was through by the 40s. He did have some movies into the 50s, but he was never a big star or anything.
Yeah.
His transition was to television. He did the General Electric Theater, and he used to go, and also Death Valley Days. That's how I remember him. And he had the greatest agent in history,
Yeah.
Lou Wasserman, who was the Pope of Hollywood. This guy ended his life as a billionaire. Yeah,
Huh.
10%er.
Yeah.
Wow. And a liberal Democrat, but he backed Dutch.
Yeah.
But by the time of General Electric, he's going around delivering speeches
Yeah.
about all the virtues of America and
Right.
capitalism. And Melvin Douglas said he started believing all this crap. And he was a Democrat up to, I think, 62. And he switched. And by 64, he came out big for Goldwater.
Yeah.
And he was considered a reactionary. And he was elected governor in 66 against Edmund Brown, Pat Brown, who's Jerry Brown's father, who had done 3 terms as governor.
Yeah.
And he'd crushed Nixon in 62. And Dutch was elected due to the backlash on fair housing.
Really?
Fair housing legislation. You can see pictures of Brando and Paul Newman marching like in the San Fernando Valley to get rid of covenants against blacks, Jews, and all that.
Yeah.
And he was briefly a candidate in 68 for the presidency.
Yeah.
The real conservatives, the real Goldwater people.
Well, there's that great at the convention
Goldwater changed the party.
in the convention where
64 at the Cow Palace, San Francisco.
I'm thinking about it was when he was trying to get the nomination from Gerald Ford.
76.
76.
He offered the vice presidency to somebody who was a liberal. I can't remember his name.
Oh.
Yeah, but go on.
Oh, okay. I just saw it for the first time a few years ago, the actual video. I'd always heard about it.
No blackface.
Where no blackface at that convention. But where Gerald Ford,
A boob.
who was being overshadowed by Reagan.
He could have been overshadowed by Alfred E. Newman
That's
or anybody.
true. That's true. But this incredibly awkward moment where he's already being overshadowed by Reagan, and he introduces Reagan to come up to the podium and give a speech, and Reagan takes his sweet time getting there. He's going along. He's stopping, shaking everybody's hands, and just milks it for absolutely everything he can. So by the time he gets to the podium, it's like he just, he comes across as this larger than life figure, and Ford just seems so small, like just a bit player in this whole thing. And I'd heard about it for years, and then I finally saw the video. I was like, wow.
Yeah, he was a skilled actor.
Yeah.
You can't take away the fact that he was skilled.
Yeah.
And he is the culmination of what starts in 60. John F. Kennedy, Norman Mailer, wrote a famous article in the November 1960 Esquire magazine. When Esquire was big, rag, help set. People read magazine stuff.
Yeah.
It was called Superman Comes to the Supermarket. And it was about John Kennedy. And John Kennedy was a new type of politician. He was movie star handsome. He was telegenic.
Yeah.
And they'd say during the TV debates, he came across so well. But if you listened on the radio without the visuals, where Nixon looks like, a cheap used car salesman.
Right.
And so he's the first, he's not a movie star, but he's the first, movie star president.
Yeah.
And then you really get a movie star. No, I'm just saying in the East Coast. Oh, a broken down B-movie actor. And, 1951, he's in Bedtime for Bonzo. Talk about a B movie.
Is that the movie with the ape? Where he's
the chimpanzee.
The chimpanzee.
But, it's funny because Cary Grant, who was one of the greatest actors ever, made a movie with a chimpanzee and Marilyn Monroe and Ginger Rogers, who was an Oscar and a big star herself.
Yeah.
Directed by Howard Hawks, who was one of the great directors. And it's a stupid movie with a chimp and Marilyn Monroe, 24, which, geez, oh.
Yeah.
And a youth serum, where they take the serum. That's why the chimp's there.
Okay.
And Ginger Rogers, who was a talented comedian. She was mostly famous for Dancing with Fred Astaire.
Yeah.
Her and Cary Grant, who was an incomparable, great star. They go back to their childhoods. So, we'll make a knockoff, but we'll have Ronald Reagan and this idiotic,
Yeah.
So that's where his career was.
Wow.
And I remember him on Death Valley days. He would introduce the shows.
Now, he became president of the Screen Actors Guild eventually,
Twice,
right?
yeah.
Oh, twice he was. Okay.
He was early 50s, and he gave MCI, the Music Corporation of America, which was his agent,
Yeah.
a waiver where they could produce television shows and movies. Now, the idea, it was unprecedented, because if you give your agent the ability to be your producer, he is going to hire you at a lesser value.
Yeah.
And Lou Wasserman, who was the head, who was Dutch's agent, MCA not only bought Universal, a studio, then they bought a record company, and they were a talent agency, so they controlled, it was like a monopoly. They controlled the talent, they controlled the means of production, and so they can set your price. And they were later in 62, in the Kennedy administration, they had to divest themselves of the talent agency. And the thing was, Dutch gave them this unprecedented waiver so they could do this. And that was his agent.
Sounds like a hell of
And
a conflict of interest.
it allowed MCA to go into the TV in a big way, because studios
Yeah.
didn't want to have anything to do with TV because they were idiots. Oh, this is our competition.
Right.
So MCA starts making TVs under Review Productions. Suddenly there's all this TV product.
Yeah.
And that's where they hired Reagan. And then there was a vicious strike in 59, and the head of the Screen Actors Guild resigned, SAG. So they put Dutch Reagan back. And ironically, at that time, the waiver, it was a 7-year waiver, was expiring for MCA. So Dutch, in his 6 months or whatever, managed to put that through again.
Huh.
And I told Mo Howard of the Three Stooges hated Ronald Reagan.
Really?
Because Ronald Reagan wrote the deal. Because what they were fighting, the strike was, over royalties, residuals, over all the movies and stuff that were now going on TV. Because finally the studios were on their knees and relented and were just releasing the product.
I've read about this, how the Three Stooges totally got screwed.
Right. So in
and all that.
1960, they wanted, they signed the deal. Anything before 1960, you can't get a dime.
No
So,
kidding.
the Three Stooges, these shorts they made,
Yeah.
and they made the shorts up to 58. And
Yeah.
and they never made much money. So
Yeah.
they're thinking, well, we'll get royalties. No, you don't get any.
Wow.
But then they made these idiotic movies that made them all rich.
Right,
And Larry, they just gave him pari-mutuel tickets. Any money, he'd go down to the track.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But there was but that was Ronald Reagan.
Oh, he
You
did.
know, he was there for Lou Wasserman. And so 66, Lou Wasserman, one of the great liberal Democrats, even though he was this Barry Goldwater conservative, bankrolled him they gave him a big chunk of property, Universal, a ranch they owned.
Yeah.
And for this gut rate price, and he sold most of the property and had his ranch there, where the I guess the library's there now or something like that.
Yeah.
I've been to the library, had to go to the bathroom. I was on the road. Why go to a Union 76 when you can go to this memorial to your commander in chief and
Yes.
evacuate your bowels in memory of him?
Yes.
So Lou Wasserman, that made him independently wealthy.
Okay.
But he gave Dutch a good deal on the TV show. Like, you could have a whole show about Lou Wasserman. He freed the slaves and he gave people percentages. James Stewart, the great Jimmy Stewart, was he made him a deal where he wouldn't get money up front. He owned the negative, and he would get a certain amount of money. Then instead of getting taxed at 91%, he got taxed at 25% because he was a corporation. Wasserman was a genius, and he eventually sold MCA, Universal, for $6 billion to the Japanese.
This is a little bit of a tangent, but I heard someone in an interview who was a recording artist on MCA once refer to it as the music cemetery of America.
Oh yeah, it was huge. They called it the octopus in the '60s, and
Yeah.
Bobby Kennedy broke it up. But Dutch was one of those people. If you see the old novel from The Godfather, they have a marionette.
Yes, yes.
And that Dutch was a marionette. He's the guy going like this.
Yeah.
For Wasserman. And then Wasserman doesn't give a damn about his politics. He needs, having the governor and controlling him.
Right.
He gave him the means so he could be governor. Because you need an income.
Yeah.
He didn't have to act anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a mouthpiece,
Wow, wow.
But now look, we got Donald Trump, a TV star.
The hotline is ringing. Maybe that's Mr. Trump.
I doubt it. Let's see if it's a gal. Those calls I can't deny.
Right. Well, I don't blame you.
But Ronald Reagan, Jesus, he was non-compos mentis his entire time in the White House. You can go back. You can bring stuff in where he's at a press conference, babbling nonsense from a 1939 Brass Bancroft T-Man script. And then people just pretend that shows you the democracy we're in. That this guy whose mind is just destroyed is just a figurehead.
And they call him the great communicator.
It was all reality socially defined.
Yeah.
The stock market liked him, and people like to get along, right?
Yeah.
It's like I was reading Kurt Vonnegut, rereading Breakfast of Champions. What people like to, you agree with people, and then people will like you.
That's true.
So you just agree. So we'll agree that this guy who should be removed under the Constitution, who wants the first George Bush president, though.
Right, right.
And who ran it? The people under Reagan ran everything. It's like
Yeah.
you said about California. He signed a liberalization of the abortion bill. That's because he's just a figurehead.
Right, right.
Deaver and them.
He said he regretted it later.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I-
How they regret all sorts of things, don't they?
Yes, yes. Well, we're just about out of time, so
Matt, you need to go right up to your time limit,
yeah. Well, we've got that clock is 2 minutes fast, actually.
Let me see what the Rolex says.
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Well, anything you have to say about things going on?
I don't know. I mean, I'll tell you this. I'm excited about all the turmoil on both in the Republican and the Democratic parties, in terms of Bernie making a lot of trouble, Trump making a lot of trouble. I'm excited. I like to. I hate the two-party system. I'd like to see it all disintegrate in front of our eyes. I think it'd be wonderful.
In a parliamentary system, you can just end the government like that. And then have elections again.
Interesting. But that seems far more unrealistic than what I'd like to see. But what I'd like to see, the thing is, though, it's if the two-party system is going to self-destruct, both parties have to self-destruct at the same time. Otherwise, it
does
doesn't
seem
matter.
like the Democrats are going to self-destruct too.
Yeah, yeah.
That really seems it. But he's an old trot. He's not a Democrat. I already predicted all this stuff, as you well know.
Yes.
I hate being right about stuff. Be positive. Positive thinking.
Yes, yes.
Agree. I'm going to agree with everything.
Okay.
Say something outlandish.
Say something outlandish. I was reading that it turns out the moon really is made of green cheese. I don't know if you knew that.
I'm colorblind, so you blew that one.
All right. I gave it a shot.
Steve Valancourt, the sexiest man alive.
Yes, yes.
We'll have to bring in that meme.
People Magazine's sexiest man alive. That's right. That'd be amazing. Somewhere in an alternate universe.
I'd hate to live on that planet.
Well, if you joined us late and you missed it, really quick before we have to go, the big announcement beginning May 31st. John's show will be on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m., Ward 13 with John Hopwood, followed by this program Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. So very excited about that. So next week we'll still be on Wednesday, but the following week the big change. So that's exciting stuff. And other than that, of course, if you're watching live on Wednesday, I'll be back at 6 p.m. with the Honorable Gary S. Hopper for Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. But any last words, Mr. Hopwood?
Somebody called me Mr. Hopper the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if they just mixed us up.
May have confused
They might
you.
think I'm Gary.
That could be. That could be. All right. So we're out. We'll catch y'all later. Thanks, everybody.